の番組はコナミとご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
Superheroes are obviously one of the most enduring concepts invented in the last 100 years. The hero cards within Yu-Gi-Oh! Are no exception, and they obviously draw heavily upon the Western superhero genre for a majority of its ideas. But Japan has had its own superheroes for decades too, and in the pages of the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX manga, we were introduced to the Masked Heroes, based on the extremely popular legacy character, Kamen Rider. Masked Heroes debuted alongside Vision Heroes in the later half of the manga to be used by Jaden, mostly because of plot nonsense I don't feel like summarizing. Read the manga. The gimmick behind Masked Heroes was called Transformation Summoning, which utilizes only one monster as a material for a fusion instead. The idea being that the monster is being transformed into their new heroic form for battle, another allusion to their tokusatsu origins. Kamen Rider is like the whole thing in Japan, with decades of material just ripe for the taking, and technically speaking, Yu-Gi-Oh! Already got its feet wet in making tokusatsu hero cards, with Ultraman serving as the inspiration for Neos himself. So taking that plunge was really kinda long overdue by the time they debuted. We don't have too much to cover today, for reasons I'll get into soon enough, so let's just jump right back into it. Mass Change is the card the whole mechanic revolves around, so we're starting with that. Target one hero monster you control and send it to the graveyard. After that, you can special summon one masked hero monster from your extra deck with the same attribute that the sent monster had when it was on the field, and its original attribute if the card was face down. Obviously, like in the Evil Hero video, we needed to introduce this first since it facilitates the entire mechanic in the first place. Mass Change is as simple as it gets, really. Like Polymerization and Dark Fusion before it, it's just here to get you to your monsters in the first place, with little bonus outside of what you can support it with. But being a quick play adds a lot of possibility in strategizing the perfect opportunity to transform your monster into a new one, which comes in pretty handy, more than you'd think. Our first main deck monster is Masked Hero... Okay, so here's the thing. Masked Hero main deck monsters? All these guys here, Ray, Inferno, Gust, Duskcrow, Fountain, and Basils, they do not exist. Despite the fact that every extra deck Masked Hero is meant to build off their designs specifically, for whatever Galaxy Eyes brained reason, these guys have never been printed, and as far as I know, well, not anytime soon anyway. But you just wait, now that I've said that, this video will instantly be dated because they'll be dropping next week, so look forward to the new support, guys. The only main deck monster we can actually look at is Elemental Hero Shadow Mist. She's a dark level 4 warrior with 1000 attack and 1500 defense, and if she's special summoned, you can add one change quick play spell from your deck to your hand, and if this card was sent to the graveyard, you can add one hero monster from your deck to your hand, except Shadow Mist. You can only use one of these effects per turn, and only once that turn. I plan on covering this card specifically as a legacy elemental hero from the manga later on. We'll get there, don't you worry. So for now, I'll only be talking about it in the context of Masked Heroes. Being the only main deck monster that supports this deck at all obviously means she's helpful for searching your mask changes, as well as something else. Really, you don't need me to tell you why she's a good card outside of that, and if you really want me to, then wait for episode 6. Our first true masked hero is Vapor. He's a level 6 water warrior fusion monster with 2400 attack and 2000 defense. Like all masked heroes, he must only be special summoned through mass change, and he cannot be destroyed by card effects. Vapor was among the first cards in the archetype ever printed, and it shows a bit. He's really simplistic, to put it lightly. Protection from effect destruction really only being helpful if you're from a format where cards like Mirror Force or Dark Hole were much more common. Not a bad tag out to combo with Absolute Zero, but there is a better option. Masked Hero Acid is a level 8 water warrior with 2600 attack and 2100 defense. When this card is special summoned, destroy as many spell and traps your opponent controls as possible, and if you do, all monsters they control lose 300 attack. Acid and Absolute Zero feel like they were practically printed together for how well they combo off each other. Over the years, it's become quite a common strategy to pitch Zero for him in order to completely wipe out your opponent's board. It took years for Acid to actually be considered for competitive hero decks though. Probably because nobody saw the value in the mechanic until things happened. Unless, of course, you're a Canadian teenager in 2012 whose favorite card is Absolute Zero and you're thinking of new fun ways to make it hard to bounce them back without getting destroyed. Masked Hero Goka is a level 6 fire warrior with 2200 attack and 1800 defense. He gains 100 attack for each hero monster in your graveyard. You know, I'm starting to get a little annoyed with how undercooked fire heroes tend to be among these archetypes. There was no ideal target for this card back in the day, except maybe Elemental Hero Heat. And let me be perfectly clear that I played that, unless you wanted to pitch your Nova Master, but the mediocre attack gain effect is not worth that trade at all. Even today we have Blazeman, but he's not even really played at all unless you're a crazy person like me. Maybe someday we'll get the level 8 Fire Masked Hero that'll rectify this, but I wouldn't hold my breath. Last hero, Diane, is a level 8 Earth Warrior with 2800 attack and 3000 defense. When she destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can special summon a level 4 or lower hero monster right out of your deck. The last of the original release lineup, and she's not too shabby at all. Her effect is slow, of course, but for the time, running something over and getting a free Stratos search out of it wasn't bad at all. I still don't think she'll have much of a place in a modern variant though, even though we now have a really good Earth target for her in Solid Soldier. After the initial release, we didn't get a revisit to Masked Heroes for 3 years, bringing with it him. Masked Hero Dark Law is a level 6 Dark Warrior monster with 2400 attack and 1800 defense. Any card sent to your opponent's graveyard is banished instead. Once per turn, if your opponent adds a card or cards from their deck to their hand except during the draw phase or damage step, you can banish 1 card from your opponent's hand. Very rarely can you say that a single card has single-handedly changed the destiny of a deck and shaped its design forever. Hero is no stranger to these kinds of card, but Darklaw stands above most of them. This card alone brought heroes out of Bubble Beat and into the world of anti-meta stun and generally elevated them to a whole new level of competitive relevance. Heroes always dance the line between casual and rogue play, being no stranger to anti-meta tactics in decks like Hero Beat, but Darklaw's ability to rip cards out of the hand and apply a localized Macrocosmos to your opponent's board was just way too crazy compared to everything Heroes had done before. And since, honestly. Every major variant of most hero decks, no matter the subtype, can and will put this card in as an equalizer. It's still just that useful. Darklaw is loved and hated by many, and for a good reason. Not quite as memorable or polarizing as Masked Hero Anki. He's a level 8 Dark Warrior with 2800 attack and 1200 defense, and he can attack directly, but when he does so using this effect, the battle damage is halved. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can add a change quick play spell from your deck to your hand, and you can only use this effect of Anki once per turn. There was a time where people ran Anki mostly just as a backup dark target or another quick searcher, but you don't really see him at all now. The Amethyst Cat effect might come in handy if your opponent is in damage range to get you that win, but it won't help you much early game. It's also kind of antithetical to his other effect that procs when you destroy something in battle. Honestly, even with that search effect, you're better off just special summoning Shadow Mist for her search. Masked Hero Koga is a level 8 Light Warrior with 2500 attack and 1800 defense. This card gains 500 attack for each monster your opponent controls. Once per turn, during either player's turn, you can banish 1 hero monster from your graveyard. Then target 1 face-up monster on the field. That target loses attack equal to the attack of that banished monster until the end of this turn. Poor Koga. This guy barely had a chance to even get off the ground before being forgotten. With how common light attribute hero monsters used to be in people's decks, he probably would have seen way more use if he didn't debut next to Darklaw. His effect isn't bad by any stretch, but it does fall into the usual hero fusion pitfall of just being another attack manipulating effect, which doesn't really help his case. I mean, he's better than Goka, for what that's worth, I guess. Masked Hero Blast is a level 6 Wind Warrior monster with 2200 attack and 1800 defense. If this card is special summoned, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. Its attack becomes half of its current attack. Once per turn, quick effect, you can pay 500 life points, then target 1 spell and shop your opponent controls and return it to the hand. Blast tends to be used a lot more in competitive variants than the other Masked Heroes, usually to bounce back a field spell, continuous spell, or something during your opponent's end phase, which seems to work pretty well for most people. His first effect effect is another attack manipulator again, so the bounce back is really the only unique thing he has going for him. Still though, Blast does hold the honor of being my favorite masked hero in terms of visual design. I am a sucker for dramatic red scarves. Masked Hero Divine Wind is a level 8 Wind Warrior with 2700 attack and 1900 defense. He cannot be destroyed by battle. Your opponent can only attack with one monster during each battle phase. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can draw one card. He's basically a direct upgrade of Elemental Hero Nova Master, with the same draw effect and some battle protection. Even has a built-in one-sided Dark Door lockdown. You don't actually see many people play Divine Wind, but in my opinion, that should change. He's the shining example of what new hero cards should have. A variety of unique, useful, or interesting effects that give you a ton of options for strategizing. And I'd recommend giving him a try if you want to shake your plays up a bit. Our final fusion monster is Contrast Hero Chaos. He's a level 9 Dark Warrior with 3000 attack and 2600 defense. He requires 2 Masked Hero monsters for his fusion summon, and he's always treated as an elemental hero. He can only be fusion summoned and not special summoned through any other way, and while face up on the field, he also counts as light attribute. Because it's chaos! Like Blackluster Soldier! Once per turn, during either player's turn, you can target one face-up card on the field. Negate that target's effects until the end of the turn. Chaos is a fantastic monster. Being counted as an elemental hero too also lets him take advantage of Miracle Fusion, and his quick play negation effect is something heroes could have used ages ago, if it weren't for the fact that he's one of the most inconvenient heroes to summon. Remember, we don't have the main deck masked heroes yet, so the most likely of chances you're gonna get is if you manage to Miracle Fusion him out late game. Not that he can't be useful late game, but that negate effect would be a lot better to have on hand during early stages of a duel when heroes are at their most vulnerable. But I have hope he'll be more playable eventually. He's one of the coolest and most unique hero monsters we've ever gotten, and really, it's just a matter of time until Chaos gets his time to shine. We may be done with the main lineup, but we do have one last monster we should cover. Extra Hero Wonder Driver is a Link 2 Light Warrior monster with up and down arrows and 1900 attack. He requires 2 hero monsters, and if a hero is normal or special summoned to a zone he points to, you can take one Polymerization or Fusion spell or one Change Quick Play spell in your graveyard and set that target. You can only activate this effect of Wonder Driver once per turn. If he's destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one new hero from your hand. Wonder Driver went from a card with bad arrows and early Link format to a pretty good recycler post Master 05. Really, he's more generic hero support if anything, but the specification of mass change in his effect qualifies him for this video too. Besides, I barely had anything else to talk about. Give me a break. Circling back to the spell and lack of trap support, we have Mass Change 2. It's a quick play spell that lets you discard one card and then target one face-up monster you control that has a level, send it to the graveyard, and after that, you can special summon a mask hero that's the same attribute but a higher level. This is treated as a special summon with Mass Change, and you can only activate one per turn. This thing is kind of a byproduct of how transformation summoning was supposed to work in the manga, with Mass Change summoning the level 6s and 2 summoning the level 8s. For variety's sake, I guess, they instead made 2 a generic Mask Hero Summoner that could be splashed into any deck, but it never saw too much play outside some clever teching in water or dark decks back in the day. In any sort of dedicated hero deck, it's basically just an excuse to run more copies of Mass Change that force you to discard for no reason. Slightly more interesting is Form Change. It's also a quick play, and it lets you target one hero fusion you control to return it to the extra deck, and lets you summon a mask hero of an equivalent level but a different name from your extra deck, and it too is treated as a summon with Mass Change. Why is this any different from the last card? Well, it's because it doesn't specify an element, just a level. You can trade out pretty much any other hero fusion for any mask hero if their levels match. This makes it a much better backup card for regular Mass Change, since it doesn't require a cost, and you can bypass one of their few summoning restrictions. You likely won't see the level 6s played very much with it, but most hero fusions tend to be level 8, which could mean an instant Acid or Divine Wind at a very inconvenient time for your opponent. It's not a staple or anything, but it's worth a look. Our final card of the day is Mask Charge. It's a normal spell, and it lets you target one hero monster and one change quick play spell in your graveyard and add them to your hand. It's literally just a specialized fusion recovery, which is handy if your deck is focused entirely on masked hero monsters, but less so if you just like to splash them into your other builds. Fusion recovery is a pretty good card itself, mind you, but polymerization is inherently a bit easier to search and has a lot more consistent support baked into hero monsters than mass change does right now. Until that changes, you probably don't need this one. Well, we've come to the end of another video, so what do I think? Masked heroes are a very unique and creative idea that the GX manga brought to the table. Honestly, it was a stroke of genius to go all in on a different genre of superheroes to create a whole new series of elemental hero-like monsters for Jaden to use. If they hadn't been introduced so late in the manga's story, we probably would have had a lot more time to see them in action, and it's a shame we didn't. We even got an epilogue chapter years after the manga ended, just so they could advertise the fact that they were making new ones. Maybe if Jaden could stop summoning Terra Firma instead of literally any other hero monster in his extra deck. You have 6 Omni heroes, Jaden. Why do you play Inferno? Inferno sucks. Terra Firma is not that good. You have Miracle Fusion, Jaden. Why do you play this garbage? You have Miracle Fusion. Why do you play this? Play better, Like a lot of concepts lifted from it, though, they needed to be streamlined to actually be made viable and effective. See my Legendary Planets video for further discussion on that. Thankfully, unlike some other examples, these cards mostly all translated pretty well to the actual game, with only a few underwhelming cards in their lineup. They're pretty much tailor-made as a companion archetype to the elemental heroes, needing a variety of different monsters to utilize their full potential. And I think that's pretty cool and symbolic considering they were the only other hero archetype that Jaden ever played outside of Neos, and Neos didn't really work with his elemental heroes much at all. Sad to say it took them a few years to see any sort of widespread play. Outside of a few people like myself who would combo Acid with Zero, they had practically no presence aside from this guy, apparently. Godspeed, man. Darklaw alone changed the landscape of hero decks for quite some time, though, pushing out nearly every other masked hero before they even got a chance to shine. Although, admittedly, compared to him, their effects tended to vary in usefulness and general creativity. If there's one thing I can give Darklaw, he's certainly creative. That being said, there is still a lot of life left in this concept. We don't even have secondary options for Fire, Earth, or Light yet, and the main deck monsters don't even exist. When our Konami overlords finally remember that there's hero monsters they forgot to print, I'm sure we'll be able to see this deck finally reach that full potential that I always knew it had. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. As you can see, I went a little overboard with the weeb shit for this one. That's just a one-time thing. Don't expect them back. Although I might keep the title card because I kinda liked how it looked. So maybe I'll put those in the next 2 episodes. Maybe. That was fun to make. Yeah, so the next video, of course, is going to be Vision Heroes, which will also be a relatively short one because there are not a lot of Vision Heroes. And after that, we're gonna wrap things up with the legacy support from the manga and beyond. So, yeah, look forward to that whenever they come out. Maybe it won't take me 10 months in between next time, or maybe it will. Who's to say? I hope you guys have a great day, and even better tomorrow, and remember to always get your game on!